not exactly hidden. Tang? Are you there? Morg says he lost track of you, but you never left the forest. Are you dead? Can I have your stuff? Bike calls out from nearby. The sniper looks over his shoulder and calls in the general direction where Bike is no doubt hiding behind something in case everything had gone pear-shaped somehow. I'm fine. There's a Treei here, so the little guy is blocking Axiom. He then turns back to the emergency dispatch and finalizes what he can by giving them his contact information for further questions before they all race away in a hurry to the nearest hospital. Being unconscious as long as these women have been means there are concussions all around, and it doesn't matter what species you are. Getting your brains literally banged up is nothing to sneeze at in any capacity. A Treei? Really? Hang on a second, Bike says, poking his head around one of the massive mushrooms and leaning against it before calling Morg. Hey, you know that gap that has the forest freaking out and you can't make out anything near it? It's a Treei. They're friendly, but they freak people out because they have an immense defense against Axiom. Yes. The reason you can't see anything there is that the little guy is disrupting the Axiom around him. He does it all the time, but it's not an attack, it's as automatic as breathing. Maybe less so, as I don't think he can hold his breath. That's a good question, let me ask. Bike covers the communicator and turns to them. Hey, little guy. I am Alranoth, Seeker of the Barkbinder clan. A pleasure. I'm Drake Ingall, also called Bike. I was wondering if it's possible for your kind to suppress your disrupting effect at all. Bike calls to him, and there's an odd look that crosses Alranoth's face. No! It's in rhythm with my heartbeat. I have no control of it, Alranoth calls back. Got it. Bike calls back before uncovering the communicator. I was wrong. It's not as automatic as breathing, but as a heartbeat. It's not turning off, and it's not deliberate. So is this Morg character the sorcerer? Alranoth asks, and Tang nods. He is. He's one of the biggest players in what's happened from what I understand. Apparently coming here was his idea, and a lot of tonight's excitement was due to him bringing a last-minute guest along. I saw some of that. There was some kind of chase starting in Halaric Ridge. I lost track of it quickly in the rain. That was our distraction. A young woman has lived under a stifling mother and has run away from home. Morg Arkun the sorcerer offered her shelter, and my team and I were called in to assist. Why didn't the mother and daughter get some kind of intervention? Alranoth asks, and Tang shrugs. I don't know. I understand that there's a silly amount of money involved, and that always complicates things. When a person's pocket change is comparable to a military budget, then anything they get up to will cause waves, Tang says, and Alranoth's eyes widen as he considers that. There are very few Treei with that kind of wealth. CEOs mostly, and they have entire companies to answer to if they start spending too much. Alranoth considers. So, what is going to happen now? I appear to be disrupting and disturbing the forest, which is effectively some kind of slope or gravia, just on a gigantic scale. I don't think it's going to appreciate my remaining here. Likely not. It seems to be freaking out, for lack of a better term, at your presence. I am trained to keep myself safe, not break into places and fight everyone that tries to stop me. Alranoth notes before pulling a small cylindrical device with a clip out of the bandolier underneath his poncho. Could you strap this to your chest or shoulder, please? It's time I stop bothering people, but more knowledge is always a blessing. You're not a bother to me, Tang replies, even as he takes the device and clips it onto his shoulder strap. He makes a point to have the small blue crystal portion of the small cylinder pointing forward. You're fine. The forest seems to be growing more agitated, Alranoth says, as he points to the right somewhat. See, a buildup of glowing spores. My disruption is causing this entity distress, and it's not my job or my intention to bother a creature that's just coming into existence. I'm not sure you can classify a gigantic mushroom forest with a will of its own as a baby, Tang remarks. Well, whatever you classify this new entity as, it is not comfortable with my being here and it's wisest for me to move on. May I have your contact information so I can retrieve my scanner at a later date? Certainly, Tang replies. Don't feel shy about calling up for other reasons too. If your kind struggle to use Axiom, then there's a lot we can learn from each other. Only the most recent human advances use any Axiom at all, and any more advanced tech that requires none of it will be incredibly valuable to us. Really? Our main ship, the Dauntless, was able to work properly in cruel space, including crossing a distance of about 0.25% of the galaxy wide in just 4 months. Now that's a very long time compared to Axiom-assisted travel, but it uses a Vanapo-Crassus engine, I know. You do? Tang asks. A lot of the concepts to the FTL engine on the Dauntless had gone clean over his head, but the Vanapo-Crassus equation was apparently a huge part of it. The Barkbinder clan, in collaboration with a dozen other clans and some of the best and brightest from the newly formed Meccan Reach, invented it some 500 years ago. It's been public domain for at least a century now. It's the fastest non-Axiom-based engine currently available in the galaxy, and not something in a lab somewhere or cutting-edge military stealth technology. Of course, we Treei usually use semi-automated ships. We have our own little cabin area with a tri-tight covering and only a few egress points. I have a go-be mechanic I've never actually met face-to-face who maintains mine. She gets her half of the ship and I get mine. That's one way of dealing with things. Have you ever tried going around in some kind of armor or tri-tight based covering? Yes, but they're very uncomfortable and there are cultural hang-ups around using them too. Alrinoth agrees before suddenly looking up as the larger mushrooms start to twist and shiver. And that's me out of time. Thank you for the conversation, see ya. Then he takes off like a shot and Tang's eyes widen. The earth starts shifting and a stone is shot directly towards Alrinoth and Tang's hands blur. His snapshot clips the tail end of the stone spear and sends it spinning off course instead of shattering it, but it still works well enough. Tang looks upwards even as Alrinoth vanishes into the rain beyond the forest edge and frowns. The hell was that about? He wasn't hurting anyone. Tang demands out loud even as Bike walks up with a sour expression on his face. Apparently, the little golden monkey was compared to being numb, having an aggressive tumor, feeling like someone stepped over your grave and having a gun to your head simultaneously, Bike says as he pockets his communicator. You've got to be kidding. I know Axiom is important, but seriously? Tang asks, and Bike nods. It does explain the rarity of the little guys. I'd imagine that a thinking forest like this place would be far more resistant to their disrupting presence than most beings. Didn't that report from Centris have the civilian scream in terror the moment a Treei showed up? Bike asks. I think so. I only read it once. Tang replies. Fair enough. Bike replies. It may be something we need to brush up more on. I didn't know that the Treei were responsible for the Dauntless engine design. It makes sense. If they disrupt Axiom, then their tech either has its Axiom components shielded from them, making them extremely robust and resistant to tampering, or doesn't use it at all and sidesteps the issue entirely. Tang considers before they both feel a pull on the Axiom, and they're suddenly in the small clearing where Morg Arkin and Magi Kemka are waiting with Onyx and Jade. Are you all right? The forest could barely sense anything in that area? What did that thing do? Why didn't you fight it? Why is it still alive? Morg Arkin demands, rushing up to them and walking around as if to check for some terrible injury or horrible effect on them. I told you on the communicator, a Treei was disrupting the Axiom. It wasn't an attack, it was just a small person keeping themselves safe, Bike says, and Morg looks them up and down again. You faded away, he says, pointing to Tang. Not even the dead fade away. You weren't gone. You were undone. I'm fine. Tang says as Morg takes a few breaths. The forest was so afraid. It pulled at my knowledge of earth and stone to try and ward that creature off. I'm not going to pretend I understand the fear, but you need to know, the forest needs to know that it was irrational. That Treei is too small to cause any real damage to the forest, and so long as you keep a respectful distance, he's no real harm to you either, Morg. So it is a threat, Morg asks. He disrupts Axiom around him, and on contact outright dispels it. You need Axiom to live, so a Treei's touch is the touch of death, which does not make him sound like a non-threat. Tang finishes with a slightly pained expression on his face. Alrinoth does not want to hurt you or anyone else, but his natural defenses against Axiom threats makes him dangerous. But that's what it is, a defense. If you don't attack, then it doesn't come up. I still don't want that thing near me, Morg says quickly, almost instinctively, and Magikemka is looking thoughtful. Then she gives a small smile. Can I talk to him? She asks. He's already left, and while he has my contact information, I don't have his. Tang says with an apologetic smile. Oh, that's a pity. No one's ever even spoken about what was it called again? A tree? Tree. Apparently you roll the R sound, Tang corrects her. Interesting, Magikemka states before looking around a little oddly. So, what now? Pardon? What do we do now? With the forest, we have a place to keep safe with ease. We have 2 planets with forests on them, and I still want to discover and learn, and, well, mushrooms are kind of gross. Not the forest for you? Morg Arkin asks in an amused tone. Not really. It's wet, it's cold, it smells funny, and I really don't like it here, Magikemka says, and he nods. Not everything is as warm as the dark forest, Morg Arkin notes. But it would be smart to have little holdouts over the planet. Give me some time and I can make a few of them. With my help, you can be anywhere on Lilb to Lelb. Will you be needing our help, or can I get a lift? I can use public transport, but it's faster and safer with you guys, Morg Arkin asks. Sure thing, Tiny. Onyx answers easily. Although, why not both of you? I can easily take you from hotspot to hotspot the world over, and you set down your little gardens all over while you both look for the best vacation destination. That sounds fun, Magikemka says eagerly. Hop on in then, little lady. It's gonna be a little slow going for a bit as we weave through this forest, but once we clear it, we should be able to easily get anywhere in the drier parts of this planet, Onyx offers. I suppose the main threat is past now that we have the forest here. But we need to be careful. Those hunters are still out there. Maybe, but most of them are pretty distracted right now. Is your husband still flying them in circles? Free beard. Air Farce, the Hat, and Mr. T sing along with the now repeating song as the sky behind them erupts in a multi-hued plasma discharge. Woo! Which one was that? Air Farce demands, and Mr. T chuckles as he double-checks. The plasmite bomb from that crazy batch of terrorist girls. You know, the ones who kept knocking down government buildings? Oh yeah, I kinda remember them. We found their safe house and literally nabbed them while they slept. They woke up in jail cells with their bounties paid out and all their munitions raided. Wasn't even a fight. The Hat remarks as he grabs another large bomb from the munitions pile. Hey, this is from that job with the crazy slobe that stole Canador power armor and tried a shitty frame-up. Let her rip, Air Farce tells the man as he banks to the left to avoid a laser barrage. The Hat cheers as he lets fly the weapon, and the sudden presence of lightning lets all 3 laughing men know it was an electrical bomb.